When you've been a star for as long as Godzilla has, you're bound to make some friends and some enemies. Throughout his 60-plus year career, Godzilla has faced off against a multitude of various kaiju. Some, like himself, are from a prehistoric time before man, while others are creatures from entirely different worlds. Some started out as Godzilla's enemy only to become his closest ally, while others continue to hate him to this day. In all seriousness, part of the reason Godzilla is such a global icon is because the cast of monsters that populate the franchise are so memorable. Toho was the king of the kaiju genre in the 50s and 60s, building their dynasty on classics such as Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan. The genre was practically built on Godzilla's spiny back, and the result was the creation of some unique monsters, many of which are so ingrained within the franchise that they get reborn every time Godzilla does. These monsters challenge him, give him personality, and most importantly, make him look good. Basically, without his cast of supporting players, Godzilla wouldn't have a career. So given this, I thought it would be fun to look back and give credit to some of the monsters that made him a star. So without further ado, here are what I consider to be 10 of the greatest monsters of the Godzilla series. Number 10. Hedorah. One of Godzilla's most bizarre foes, Hedorah debuted in the equally bizarre Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Hedorah is an alien organism that feeds and grows on pollution. Naturally, Earth is a buffet for this creature, and it goes on a rampage, sinking ships and attacking factories. While it looks like a giant blob of sludge with eyes, Hedorah is actually a collection of living minerals, each with a life of its own, that can combine together to form one larger creature. To this day, Hedorah remains one of Godzilla's most challenging opponents, and this is because it has a nice variety of offensive and defensive abilities. Godzilla's punches go right through it, making hand-to-hand combat near impossible. It is also immune to Godzilla's atomic breath, which is his most powerful weapon. Hedorah is also a shapeshifter, allowing it to travel in any environment. Its body is comprised of sulfuric acid, which it can shoot out at high velocity or spray like a fine mist, the results of which are actually pretty horrific. Oh yeah, and it also shoots lasers out of its eye. This monster was so difficult for Godzilla that it took the combination of his own perseverance and some clever thinking of Dr. Yano to take it down. Hedorah helped usher in the era of Godzilla as a superhero, and whether you enjoy this interpretation or not, there is no denying this era's importance in establishing Godzilla's popularity. Hedorah may not have reappeared as often as some of the other monsters in the Godzilla series, but its heavy-handed environmental origins, along with the genuine challenge it gave our favorite radioactive dinosaur, make it quite the monster. Number 9. Megalon. Megalon is one of the most craziously designed monsters Godzilla has ever fought. He is literally a giant bipedal beetle with drills for hands. His first and only appearance to date was in Godzilla vs. Megalon, where, as the god protector of the undersea society called Seatopia, he was unleashed on us surface dwellers for making too much racket with those nuclear weapon tests we love so much. Luckily for us though, we had Godzilla and Jet Jaguar on our side. Since Megalon made his debut in the era when Godzilla was the hope for all children, he was given an abundance of personality along with the other monsters in an effort to appeal to kids. The result is one of the most amusingly childish villains Godzilla has ever faced, a personality that perfectly complements the cowardly and conniving Gigan. He's easily distracted by external stimuli and takes perverse delight in causing destruction. He takes advantage of every opportunity he can to get his way, while acting clearly distressed when things don't. To complement this obnoxious attitude is an obnoxious assortment of abilities, including being able to shoot a lightning bolt from his horn and napalm grenades out of his mouth, as well as being able to fly and use his drill hands to travel underground. Since Godzilla vs. Megalon is one of the more infamously well-known films in the series, Megalon remains a fan favorite despite his singular appearance. He has a really great design, and his personality makes him unforgettable. He's just a fun monster. Overall, Megalon is a great villainous kaiju that the kids can cheer against as Godzilla lays the smackdown. Number 8. Biollante. Biollante is a genuinely scary looking beast. Debuting in Godzilla vs. Biollante, this monstrosity is what happens when you mix Godzilla's DNA with that of a young girl and a rose. Her first appearance was that of a rose with teeth, but after Godzilla made short work of her with his atomic breath, the Godzilla genes inside her took over and she returned with a whole new look. Biollante's second form is a phenomenal design. Its mixture of plant and reptilian features results in a very diabolical look. Despite the apparent innocence of her nature, she is covered with numerous tendrils that mouth vines spines, which give her the ability to grapple and constrict her enemies. While her first form was pretty much defenseless with the exception of these tendrils, her second form has a crocodilian mouth covered from top to bottom with razor-sharp teeth. From that terrifying maw also comes the ability to spray a radioactive corrosive sap, and thanks to her relation to Godzilla, she can also regenerate almost instantaneously, making her pretty much invincible. The combination of these abilities, along with her immense size, gave Godzilla quite a match, but in the end she still couldn't stand up against his might. She dissolved into spores and floated up into space, where she presumably remained. Biollante is a really unique monster because her appearance completely contrasts with her character. Despite her menacing look, at the center is the soul of a young and innocent girl. Her origins call attention to the constant battle between science and morality, making for one of the most poetic and thought-provoking kaiju in the Godzilla series. Number 7. Gigan. Gigan is another kaiju where the designers just went nuts. He's pretty much a cybernetic reptilian bird-like creature. Gigan is the official monster of the M Space Hunter Nebula aliens, space cockroaches who want to take over Earth. He first appeared in Godzilla vs. Gigan, after which he returned in Godzilla vs. Megalon and Godzilla Final Wars 30 years later. Despite being in some of the lesser-liked Godzilla films, Gigan is actually quite a fan favorite. This is no doubt due to his really outlandish design. He is a walking Swiss Army knife. Nearly every part of his body is a weapon. His arms and feet are metal hooks, and his abdomen is home to a buzzsaw that can turn on and off at will. His reappearance in Final Wars saw the addition of the ability to shoot a laser from his red eye. Add in the ability to fly, and you got a kaiju that is extremely dangerous at close quarters. This is evident by the fact that Gigan was the first monster to ever make Godzilla bleed. He loves causing pain and destruction, but when the situation ceases to lean in his favor, he tends to turn tail and run, making him one of the most cowardly kaiju of them all. Gigan is one of Godzilla's most classic enemies, which makes it such a shame he didn't appear in more movies. He's just a really cool and unique looking monster. Number 6. Destoroyah. Destoroyah is the ultimate bad guy in the Godzilla mythos. He was born from the Oxygen Destroyer, the one weapon capable of killing Godzilla, and thus represents a power even Godzilla should fear. It was designed to be Godzilla's final enemy for the final film of the Heisei series, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. This is reflected in its look, which is very devilish and demonic. Destoroyah actually originated as a colony of microscopic Precambrian crustaceans that were mutated by the detonation of the Oxygen Destroyer in 1954. Like Hedorah, these crustaceans can combine and divide at will. This means that Destoroyah can take on many different forms, ranging from a multi-limbed crab appearance to the more bipedal dragon stance of the fully formed adult. Its major weapon is an explosive micro-oxygen spray it shoots from its mouth, capable of eating through any material. The horn protruding from its head can generate a blade of energy with the power to cut through Godzilla's flesh. Earlier forms of Destoroyah have a second protruding mouth that can inject micro-oxygen directly into an opponent's bloodstream, as it does to Godzilla Jr. Destoroyah's origins in relation to Godzilla make it the most dramatic opponent he's ever faced. It killed his only son, and was able to go toe-to-toe against a Godzilla so powerful he was literally killing himself. Its means of defeat ends up being underwhelming, but even a disappointing death can't stop Destoroyah from being a powerful monster capable of leaving an unforgettable impression. Number 5. Rodan. You can't go wrong with Rodan. He's just classic. His first appearance was in his own movie, Rodan, after which he teamed up with Godzilla and Mothra to fight King Ghidorah in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Since then, he has been a constant presence in the franchise. A very simple monster, Rodan is a large species of prehistoric pteranodon. He's had a complex relationship with Godzilla over the years, often switching between being a friend or foe. Rodan's most powerful ability is his supersonic speed. He's able to fly so fast he creates shockwaves, meaning all Rodan needs do is fly over a city, and the wind generated from his intense speed will devastate everything in his path. He can also use this ability to hold his foes at bay and keep them off their feet. When he was reimagined in the Heisei series of films, he was given a substantial power boost in the form of a heat beam. Rodan may not have as much going on aesthetically as some other monsters in the Godzilla series, but he is so ingrained into the mythology of Toho's monster movies that he remains one of the most popular and significant. Simply put, Rodan is just classic Godzilla. Number 4. Mechagodzilla. What is the only thing that could possibly stand up against Godzilla? A robot Godzilla, of course. Perhaps no foe in the history of the franchise has given Godzilla a run for his money as much as Mechagodzilla has. Whether it is an agent of invading aliens or a weapon of mankind, Mechagodzilla always proves to be a powerful opponent, threatening Godzilla with death more often than any monster ever has. The defining characteristic of Mechagodzilla is the near limitless assortment of weaponry at its disposal. Each generation of Mechagodzilla has their own abilities unique to their style of film. The original Mechagodzilla had missiles in its fingers, toes, knees, and throat, as well as the ability to shoot laser beams from its eyes and chest. The Heisei-era Mechagodzilla has similar style attacks, as well as new abilities like shock cables and the devastating plasma grenade. The Millennium-era Mechagodzilla, nicknamed Kiryu, is built on the bones of the original Godzilla, and is equipped with a freezing weapon called the Absolute Zero Cannon. When Mechagodzilla unleashes its full power with these weapons, it is a spectacle to behold. All of these incarnations retain superb defensive abilities as well, thanks to near indestructible titanium shielding. Mechagodzilla is more of a weapon than a monster, but its relationship with Godzilla is iconic. Even those who know next to nothing about Godzilla know about his robotic doppelganger. You simply can't have Godzilla without Mechagodzilla. Number 3. Anguirus. How can you not love Anguirus? Not only was he the first monster Godzilla ever fought, but he went on to become not just an ally, but arguably his best friend. Like Godzilla and Rodan, Anguirus is a very large prehistoric creature, taking heavy inspiration from the Ankylosaurus. He first appeared in Godzilla Raids Again, the Rush sequel to the original film. He didn't appear again until Destroy All Monsters, after which he would make regular appearances. Anguirus is perhaps the most simplistic kaiju of them all. He has no flashy beam attacks or special powers. He's the most naturalistic monster in Godzilla's roster, which means he has to rely on his teeth, claws, and spikes as weapons. He does have a spiked carapace covering his back, which provides both good offense and defense. Any monster would not want to be in his way when he comes hurling at them with those spikes. He can also burrow underground, giving him the ability to quickly get out of a tight spot. Anguirus makes up for his limitations with stamina and determination far exceeding most of the other monsters. He has never won a fight, but his willingness to help his allies and selflessness makes him incredibly sympathetic. Anguirus is a true underdog, and his friendship with Godzilla is one of the most enjoyable aspects of the first series of films. He may not be the most flashy or outrageous kaiju, but his character more than makes up for it. Number 2. Mothra. She may just be a giant moth, but Mothra is probably the most popular kaiju other than Godzilla. She first appeared in her own film before transitioning into the Godzilla series in Mothra vs. Godzilla. She resides on Infant Island, where she is worshipped by the natives as a goddess. Mothra is almost always accompanied by her two miniature twin fairies, who are the only ones who can communicate with her. Despite allying with each other a couple times, Godzilla and Mothra don't usually see eye to eye, and they fought each other many times. Mothra is an unequivocally good kaiju. She never attacks mankind unless she or her people are threatened, and any damage she does is always unintended. In her larval form, she is extremely vulnerable, as her only means of attack is her silk spray. Her adult form fares much better. When she flaps her wings, she creates hurricane force winds. She can also shed her scales to create poison powder to rain down on her enemies, though the use of this attack means she intends to die. The Heisei-era Mothra, however, was given beam weapons in order to make her more powerful. Mothra is a peaceful and noble kaiju. She isn't exactly the most exciting or powerful, but her noble heart makes her appealing to certain people. She was actually popular enough to get her own trilogy, something most of the other monsters in the Godzilla series couldn't do. Whether you hate or love her, there is no denying the part she played in establishing the Godzilla mythos. Number 1. King Ghidorah. A monster as great as Godzilla deserves a great villain, and King Ghidorah has fit that role for 50 years. First appearing in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, the multi-headed golden dragon calls to mind the hydras of ancient mythology. He is an extraterrestrial destroyer of planets, at least until he was revealed to be a pawn of alien invaders, a role he would never quite shake off. The design of King Ghidorah is a major reason why he has endured as a fan favorite. Those three cackling heads spewing lightning and destroying everything in sight is one of the most iconic images of the series. He's the ultimate bad guy, a being so powerful it took the combined might of Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra to beat him. And that is one of the unique things about King Ghidorah. Despite being a destroyer of worlds and Godzilla's arch-nemesis, he's never won a fight. Perhaps it's not his fault. He's always going up against multiple opponents. You almost feel sorry for him watching him get demolished in Destroy All Monsters. Almost. His origin got rebooted in the Heisei series, instead being the result of the mutation and merging of 3 cute little Dorats. His defeat by a reborn Godzilla in that film led to him coming back as Mecha King Ghidorah. He's even been the good guy, going up against a possessed Godzilla along with Mothra in GMK, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. And he was the final opponent for Godzilla in Godzilla Final Wars, a fitting final foe if there ever was one. He may not always quite live up to his name, but the fact that King Ghidorah continues to get labeled as Godzilla's arch-nemesis to this day proves the enormous impact he had on establishing Godzilla's status in popular culture. The image of Godzilla facing a 3-headed dragon is one even casuals have probably come across at least once. 3 heads truly are better than 1. Thanks so much for watching. Do you agree with my list? Do you have a favorite monster from the Godzilla series that you feel I neglected? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Up From the Depths for more Godzilla goodness. Again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, long live the king.